Awesome.
Hello, everybody. I have the absolute honor of sitting here with Drew Glick. He is the author of The Wheelhouse, the true story about a boy and his dogs. How's it going, Drew?
Going good. I'm just waking up, having my coffee. So forgive the tiredness, the bags under the eyes. I'm sorry
Hey,
about
that's
that.
a good day. Everybody's got to start with coffee, right?
Better believe it. And by the way, that is my nickname. Legitimately, that is my nickname, Coffee, Koffee. So on social media, it's Coffee, not Drew. So hey, it is what
Hey,
it is.
that's awesome. Drew, can you tell us about your book?
Tell you about my book. I would love to tell you about my book. My book is roughly about 323 pages. It follows the exploits, I would say, of myself and my two dogs, Sasha and Gabby. I won't lie, it's not an easy read for a lot of people. There's a lot of dark times. Um, and recently I just got a comment from a listener who listened to the audiobook who told me that, it kind of shows like what to expect, the expectations in terms of like losing a pet and how that affects the human psyche. So really the book kind of delves into like bridging the gap between a human being and the love they have for their animals and how that transcends into like a love that humans have for another human being. But again, it's not easy to read, and dog lovers specifically will probably not be able to find to read it. Sorry, you know, in a long-winded way. They will find themselves putting it down quite often.
Yeah, so definitely have a box of tissues handy, right?
Yeah. It was said to me that it's a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Um, and it was one of those things that I never really meant to write. But as my cousin Steven will say, it was therapy for me. So I guess you could say that being an author was kind of like an accidental career, but I don't know, everything happens for a reason. I guess you would kind of say.
Right. And what was that what you would say inspired your book is your experience with your dogs?
Well, to be quite honest with you, there's a lot of inspirations. Um, Primarily, yes, it was um, my having my two dogs in my life. And by the way, I don't like to call them dogs. I say this in the book quite often that they're really like they're equivalent of my daughters. Um, but inspirational wise, I would have to say that it was more not so much with Sasha and Gabby in that story, but just the people that said, "Hey, you're never going to write a book, Drew. Never going to happen." Um, and I think that motivated me in a lot of ways to kind of follow through on things that I wanted to do. I think that, I think I'm sure anybody can relate to that. Like when you're told you can't do it, you just become more determined to do it. And most people that know me will say that the more that Drew hears no, the more determined he becomes. So I do appreciate people that wanted to kind of keep me down and mock me and be more like what's the word like discouraging. And I will say that, and this is no, uh, it's no reflection of my family, but as a parent, you always want the best for your child. And anytime you do something creative or artistic, it tends to kind of have you know, I don't know. I don't want to say anything that I can't curse, so I don't want to. But they tend to discourage you more, your family, and it created a lot of resentment and a lot of animosity for a number of years. Now that it's actually been done and it's out there and it's an audiobook now, and a lot of other things are happening because of this book. Um, it's kind of changed people's understanding. And I'm glad that my family now knows what I really did go through in terms of having Sasha and Gabby in my life and how important they really are to me. Because without them, I probably would not be here. I would probably wouldn't be breathing today. I probably would have just given up and hang it up, as they say.
Wow. And our listeners and our viewers are getting to see a picture of Sasha and Gabby right now. You sent us
Oh, I'm
some
sorry.
pictures.
Forgive me. I didn't realize people were actually seeing this live.
Well, not live, yeah,
Oops.
but on the recording. They're getting to
Oh,
see
okay,
this right
guys.
now through the magic of editing. Can you tell us
Okay, good, good.
a little bit more about your dogs and what they mean to you?
I'll definitely try. Well, I guess I should start by telling you that Sasha, who, I have them both tattooed on my arm, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Sasha and Gabby. And Sasha was a purebred American boxer. Uh, not the average looking boxer. She was a very petite, thin, slim-lined boxer. But I often referred to her as like a little devil. Anybody that has ever owned a boxer will know that they are incredibly defiant and they will always challenge for the alpha. So I didn't know that going into having Sasha. I want a dog. I mean, hey, she's cute. I'll get that. Blah 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 blah. I don't want to ruin the book, so I'm not going to get more into that because I talk a lot about that in the book. But Gabby is a purebred golden retriever, and you can kind of say I had the best of both worlds because I had Sasha, who was always causing trouble and driving me out of my skull, and then you had Gabby, who was more just like docile, didn't really care, laid around, did her own thing. But there was a lot of trials and tribulations pretty much from day one. And I think in many regards, I think it was those, how do I say this the right way? Like it was the bad times that made it good. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Like very early on, I think maybe 6 months into having Gabby, she got diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. And again, not to ruin the book, but I had to have the leg amputated and I had all kinds of things being told to me, like this dog will not survive more than 6 months, whatever, whatever. So I think it was those challenges that really, in a way, defined me and defined the what's the word? Like the rationale why it was so important for me to have Sasha and Gabby, because it showed me a different side of compassion. Like, what does compassion really mean when it comes to the human psyche, understanding that? Like, we all want to be compassionate towards somebody, but who would give up, like, essentially like their life savings, their job, their career, basically just to save a dog from cancer? And that's essentially what I did. And it sounds funny to say it, but life was definitely different and more interesting back then than it is now. I felt like I had a purpose, like I had something I had to do, like there was a reason why I was put in that position with Sasha and Gabby. But then as I look back on it now, it wasn't so much me doing anything for them, it was them doing it for me. I think I needed that connection in my life back then because I was kind of like I've always been a loner, but I've at that point in my life I was not into girls. I really didn't care. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want kids. And I just think that showed me a different approach to life, if you want to put it that way. Like there's more to life than just when we wake up, have our coffee, go to our job, and go on social media and do what we do. Like there's we're all connected is what I'm trying to get at. Like whether it be a dog, another human, we all have that universal consciousness, and we're here for each other. And as the wise man once said, that the only life worth living is a life lived for others. So I kind of feel that that's like my motivation to keep going forward and overcoming all these challenges and struggles, and using my tragedy as my triumph, as they say.
Absolutely.
I'm rambling. I'm so sorry. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, it's extremely inspirational to hear and get that reminder, because you're absolutely right. Doing things for others is really why we're here, to share that experience with others. Do you have anything else you want to share with the listener and the viewer today?
There's a lot that I want to share with the listener and viewer, but if I do that, then I inadvertently ruin the book and any forthcoming books that will come.
Hey,
I will say though that in a similar fashion as it's expressed in the books, like I think it was you guys that wanted a quote from me, and I said that every human being should aspire to become a dog, and that's actually from the book. And I genuinely believe that, because I believe that dogs, are the only selfless creatures on earth that would sacrifice their own lives for the well-being of their quote unquote owner or master. And I learned how to love through my dogs. And I don't know if that makes sense to the listener but people, how do I say this without insulting anybody? Like, people will say they love you, but it's like a reaction. It's not genuine. It's very loose. It just kind of falls off people's lips. And since these experiences that I talk about both in the book and not in the book, I truly come to understand what that means. And I've dedicated my life to, helping, or as people will say, like teaching other people about compassion, about, forgiveness. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I have my moments of weakness. Don't get me wrong. But, I think that if you're true to yourself, you can be true to somebody else. And it's, again, I'll use a quote that goes, you can't take care of somebody else until you can take care of yourself. And I think that that's why I was so driven to overcoming, or helping rather, Sasha and Gabby overcome all of these trials and tribulations, because I knew in some way it would help me become a better person. And I think if everybody out there can find something to genuinely strive for, and again, I say a lot of this in the book, so I don't want to take it out of the book, but I think if people can genuinely and honestly, from their heart, find something that drives them to strive to be better, I think the world will be a better place. I don't think we'd have all this craziness going on, the world being on fire and whatever the case may be. But we're not going to get into politics right now. I hate politics. I hate it. But yeah, I just think that genuinely my end game, or my goal rather, with the book was just to kind of bridge that gap between like what it means to be human, and then how outside influences can make you a better human being. And I hope that makes sense. I really do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
I won't lie to you, and forgive me. You can edit this out if you want, but forgive me. Before Sasha and Gabby, I was a real asshole. All right. And a lot of people even today will say, yeah, Drew's a great guy. He's the sweetest asshole you'll ever meet, So, but in today's world, like I realize, like, you gotta, and I hate to say it this way, but you got to protect yourself. It's got to be you and then everybody else. And it sounds like a contradiction to what I just said, but in some ways it is, but in other ways it's not. And I think that if people I think it's just about being true to yourself, and as much as I fought with my family, my dad and whoever telling me, give up your dogs, you can't take care of them, and believe me, if you should ever read the book or listen to it, you're going to say, man, this Drew guy, this can't possibly be true, because it's like, why would somebody, give up their life? Like, they're essentially give up their humanity in some ways to just care for two dogs, who can't talk, and, who cost an arm and a leg. I mean, that's a given. Any dog will cost you hundreds of dollars a month. But and it's a hard question to answer, because I just felt like this was, again, like I had to do this. And some people, like recently, some people said, hey, Drew, there's a part in the book where like I end up in the hospital, and like, hey, Drew, you should have just, like give your dogs to somebody. Why'd you do this? I'm like, I can't tell you why. It was just something I had to do. And I think if more people would, like I said, just true to themselves and follow their path and trusted their struggle. And by the way, I own the copyright on that. Trust your struggle. That's mine. I have the copyright on that. It's 10 cents every time someone says it. Like Donald Trump, I own that. No, I'm only playing. I'm just kidding. But I do believe that things happen for a reason, and that as a person, you have to, like I'm sure most people have heard this before. Like, sometimes you have to endure hell to get to heaven, and that's a big driving force behind the book. Like, and I'll say it again without ruining the story. Like, people like myself and others, you have to ask, like, would Drew be where he is today if these things never happened? Would he be better off? Would he be worse off? Would he be, married, 3 kids, hating his life, waking up to a wife he doesn't love anymore? So you have to look at like the reasons behind what happens. And I say it in the book that not all good things are good, and not all bad things are bad. So, like for instance, like Gabby losing her leg, well, you know, life is a matter of perspective. So, was that bad that that happened to Gabby, or did that make Gabby stronger? You know, was she able to become? I think personally, like I say in the book, that that made her a better dog. Um, I mean, granted, she never told me because you know we never were able to exchange words, but just from how she came out of that and how she just grew and she loved life, you know, and even you know having three legs, you know, whether she knew it or not. I mean, she just loved being a dog, and I know she loved me because again, I'm not going to ruin it, but you know, I think there was some kind of unconscious understanding that like I saved her and she saved me.
Wow.
I hate to use the word saved, but you know, you know, just to put it bluntly,
Yeah.
um, you know, because and this isn't ruining the book, but in you know, when I first got Gabby, I came to find out that she was given up, like essentially, quote unquote, returned to the breeder, or not the breeder. I'm sorry, to the pet store. I hate to say pet store, but and to me, you know, I don't understand how somebody could do that. It's not like you're returning a broken, you know, MP3 player. Um, and right from the beginning, it was difficult. And I said, you know what, you know, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna be that person that's weak and that just I can't do this shit. You know, like I have a job or whatever. Um, Again, and I don't know if it was just inbred in me and I just didn't realize it at the time, but I don't know if I've always been that way. But and maybe it's true. Maybe Sasha and Gabby brought that out of me for whatever reason. I may never know why, but I do feel that having them, um, you know, I like. I mean, they were like Velcro to me. So having them attached to me every day, all day, I really think was a blessing. I don't know how many people could say that, but to me, that was a blessing. You know, again, you know, how many people would put their, you know, have their dog sleeping in the bed with them and the girlfriend on the couch. You know, I mean, and that caused a lot of rifts. You know, as I say in the book. I mean, that's my dogs were quote unquote always the problem. You know, whatever. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one too. But so I'm just trying to, and I'm not to be repetitive. But you know, as an editor myself, I do film editing, freelance. I know that you always want more than less, so I'm trying to just kind of keep it going. You know what I
That's
mean?
great.
But you know, I just think that you know, all life is special and precious, and the sooner that we as human beings understand that, you know, like stepping on an ant may seem like you know infinitesimal in the grand scope of things, but I think that all life is precious, and I think that once we begin to understand that, even like a dog's life, I think that we as a species will get beyond our petty differences and you know all of this nonsense that we're dealing with now. And not that it's nonsense, okay? There is legitimacy behind a lot of it, but I think that we have to start to realize that our purpose here, you know, on this planet is far more like is far greater than we can ever know. We're never going to get there unless we have a spiritual awakening. And I think in a lot of ways, I'm trying to do that in the book. You know, I'm trying to be, again, forgive me for cursing. You want to censor it out, do what you got to do. But I try to be an asshole to people because I try to get people to look back and reflect on their own life and their actions and whether it's good or bad and whether people, you know, will kind of feel guilty because I feel guilty about a lot of stuff that I did. And I write about it in the book. But you know, I have to give people something to relate to because I know I'm not the only one out there that's ever gone through this kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's somebody else saying the same thing right now. So I want to get that connection and I want people to realize like you're not alone in this world. And the sooner that you can find that, you know, quote unquote soulmate, if that even exists, the happier your life will be. Even if your life is hard, you're going to be happy. Because even as much crap as Drew went through and as much shit as he lost, his family turning on him, girlfriends leaving, he was happy. And that's really what the book is about. And you know, as the series goes on, I will say, you know, and as readers and listeners will look back on the earlier books in the series, they will come to realize that if Drew didn't do what he did, he would never have gotten his dream job. He wouldn't have, people around the globe praising his work. I wouldn't be here sitting with you right now talking about the book. So people got to realize, like, again, like I heard it the other day, there's a saying that goes like, if you don't risk anything, then you risk everything.
Mm.
So you need to go out there, like guns blazing, take the bull by the horns. And I really hope that this book will show people that from, I mean, I don't, I mean, no one knows me personally that's obviously listening to this, but I hope that they'll, or seeing this rather, that they'll say, Drew really inspired me, and I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to be the, next Van Gogh, or I'm going to go out there and start my own business, or whatever. And I just really feel that our society has a disconnect, not a disconnect so much in sense of like with each other, just with ourselves. Like we can't really be honest, I'll give you a good example. Years ago, my father said, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're coming to work for me. You're taking over my business. I said, maybe in the next life, Dad, but not in this one, because it's not what I wanted to do. And that caused so much trouble and so many fights between me and my father. And for decades, for like at least 20 years, like, I was, I'm sorry to say it like this, but I was on the balls of my ass. Son, I can't keep giving you money. Son, you got to get a job, blah, 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 blah. But then here we are today, and he says, you know what? I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you did what you had to do. You fought the fight. You went to the mat, and now you're doing exactly what you told me that you were going to do. And I just really hope that people will get that from the book. Like it sucks to fight with family. It sucks for your father to call you names, your mother to call you names, your sister, whatever. But it's again, and I hate to keep using these like analogies and quotes, but I think people will relate to it better. It's not it's not the destination, it's the journey that matters. So if you
Right.
can learn something along the way, to me, it's worth it. If I can become a better person and mature spiritually, and be able to be a quote unquote teacher. I never want to be a teacher to people, but if they see me as a teacher, which they do, and they can learn from me, then all of this crap I went through 10 years ago, everything Sasha and Gabby went through, it wasn't in vain, and it had a reason. And that's all I'm hoping to. I'm hoping that I hope that's true. I really hope there's a reason, because sometimes I've been like, is it shit, but anyways, anything you want to ask me?
I've asked all
Because I
my
really feel
questions.
like I'm rambling and I'm just saying the
No, you're
same
good.
thing.
I'm just enjoying hearing you speaking. You're obviously extremely passionate about your work. It's incredible and inspirational to hear. And I agree. I think the journey is certainly more important than the destination. So, Drew
Yeah.
Glick,
And
everybody.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know a
Oh, go
lot of
ahead.
people may do say the opposite of that, like it's the destination, or whatever. But I think that we got to learn as human beings. I think it's important to grow and learn, and you can only do that if you just again trust your struggle. And people,
Right.
that's copyrighted. People, remember that. Don't use that without my permission. I'm
I
only
was
playing.
I
I'm
was
only playing.
tempted to use it, but I didn't want to have to send you a check for 10 cents.
Exactly, exactly. No, but I think just in closing, I'm very happy that you asked me, to be here with you today, and telling you what I can in the best way possible to describe the book, and without giving it away, obviously. But it hasn't been an easy journey, and it took a good couple of years for the book to get noticed. And I just want to keep hitting this. I'm going to keep kicking this horse here, that there is no such thing as overnight success. And you just got to trust your struggle. You got to go with the flow. And if you really want it and you're really passionate, like you said, things will click.
Absolutely. Well, The Wheelhouse, the true story about a boy and his dogs is available where books are sold. You definitely want to pick it up, especially dog lovers, but I think there's really a lot of inspirational content that's comparable and applicable to everybody. So you definitely want to pick up this book by Drew Glick.
I'm sorry. Can I
Oh,
say
one more, yeah.
one more thing? One thing, because I know it's going to come up eventually. Whether I don't know how and where. People always ask me like, how did I come up with the name, the Wheelhouse? And surprisingly, a lot of people have never heard that term. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, this I don't talk about in this book, but probably in the next one in some regard I will. Um, I first heard that name rather, or that phrase rather, when I was on the red carpet and I was at the premiere of The Young Messiah, and I was one of the camera guys. And there's a gentleman who's very famous. He does a lot of music for films. His name is Brian Debney. Um, like pretty much every major motion picture, his name is there in music credits. And he told the host at the time, "I'm going to put that in my wheelhouse." And she's like, "What does that mean, the wheelhouse?" And as I was listening him describe the wheelhouse, I was like, "Wow, that could be like a perfect title for the book," you know. And the wheelhouse means, in layman's terms, like it's a place where you put strength and you find strength. If you Google it, it's going to give you like, the wheelhouse is part of a ship and blah 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 blah. So I just want to establish that we're not talking about anything nautical here. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, but I just want to put that out there and just let people know that that was my inspiration. I felt like that was the perfect title at the time, and it seems to grow in popularity. So I may have to copyright that one too. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, Drew, thanks so much for meeting with me today, man. I've left truly inspired and eager to see all your success.
Great. And I will say that the next book is scheduled to be released August 25th of this year.
Wow, that's
And that one
incredible.
and that one's called The Wheelhouse: The Last Day. Um, it's essentially a turning point, and those people, the Star Wars fans out there, will relate to that one pretty well. It's the inner conflict, good, dark versus light, evil versus good.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not going to ruin that. I'm not going to ruin it. I think it's available for pre-order right now in ebook. I believe so. I think it's available for that. So, would love for people to check it out. Keep following the series, follow the story of Sasha and Gabby. That would be, that would just be so inspiring for me if people could keep following their story. Not so much mine, but theirs.
Right.
Um, but anyways, pleasure always.
Thank you, Drew.
Really
You have a good
enjoyable.
afternoon.
Definitely
Everybody,
you
once
too.
again, The Wheelhouse, the true story about a boy and his dogs, is out now, and he has a new one, The Wheelhouse. Remind me of that new title.
Sure. The Wheelhouse, The Last Day.
The last day is available for pre-order right now. We hope that you have a great afternoon.